In Attack of the Clones, Anakin Skywalker loses his mother, loses control, and gets handed the perfect lie at the perfect time. A Sith Lord doesn't have to shove him off the edge. He just has to tilt the fall. What if Anakin discovered it wasn't a chance at all? What if the Sith engineered Shmi's death like a test, the desert turned into a weapon, aimed at her son to see what he becomes when he breaks? This time, the fall doesn't point at the Jedi. It points at the one man closest to the throne. Let's begin. The Tatooine night is still, not peaceful, suspended. When Anakin reaches the Tusken camp, the silence feels aware. He moves between tents with his lightsaber dark, but the hilt is warm in his grip. The Force tugs him forward like a hook under the ribs. Then he finds her. Shmi Skywalker is chained upright inside a tent that reeks of smoke and dried blood. Bruised, cut, emptied down to something barely recognizable. Her head hangs forward, and Anakin's mind refuses the shape of it. His knees almost fold. He forces himself upright anyway because Jedi training teaches you to swallow grief and call it control. Here, control is a joke. "Mom," he whispers. Her eyes flutter open with effort that looks like pain, and even through it, recognition lands. "Annie," she breathes, and the name slices him. He cuts the chains, catches her before she drops, and holds her like the galaxy should be ashamed to exist around this moment. His hands shake because he's trying to be gentle and fast at the same time. "I've got you," he says, voice too tight. "I'm here." Her fingers clutch his sleeve, weak but urgent. "You can't stay." Anakin's jaw locks. He looks toward the tent flap like he can already see shapes outside. "If they come back?" "They're different," she forces out. Her eyes carry that look people get after seeing something that doesn't belong. At night, they gathered. They chanted, like it meant something. He swallows hard. "They tortured you?" "Yes," she breathes, then barely, "like an offering." The word hits him, and his anger ignites anyway. It spreads under his skin like heat. He knows what he'll become the second he steps outside. The tent flap snaps open. A Tusken warrior freezes, shocked to see a Jedi kneeling over a freed prisoner. The pause lasts a blink. Then the raider roars and lunges with a gaffy stick raised. Anakin doesn't stand. He lifts a hand and tears the warrior off the ground with the Force, slamming him backward out of the tent hard enough to make the canvas shudder. He lowers Shmi onto the bedding, then steps outside. The camp is awake now. Masked silhouettes gather, rifles rising, gaffy sticks thudding into sand. Shots crack through the night. One tears past him close enough to sting the air. Anakin ignites his lightsaber. Blue light spills across the dunes, and for the first time he doesn't look like a student. He looks like a verdict. They rush him. He doesn't charge to meet them. He simply becomes motion. Warriors lift into the air and smash into tents. A bantha bellows somewhere in panic. A gaffy stick swings. Anakin shears it in half with a clean cut. Another round comes in, and he doesn't try to bat it back like a blaster bolt. He catches the metal in the Force and whips it away into the sand like it's nothing. He advances with measured steps, cutting down anyone who closes the distance. The camp breaks in a language older than words, fear. And then he sees who's behind the line. Women, children, huddled shapes using the last fighters as a wall. The remaining warriors mutter quick prayers in a tongue Anakin doesn't understand, and that single word from Shmi loops through his head like a trigger. His blade rises. "Anakin, stop!" He turns. Shmi is half upright in the tent opening, barely holding herself together, eyes locked on him like a hand through the rage. "I can't let them." His voice is raw. "There's more," she whispers. "Trust me." His grip tightens until his knuckles whiten. A lone Tusken steps forward slowly and lowers his rifle. He drops it into the sand, raises his hands, and forces out one broken word in Basic like it hurts to shape. "Mercy." Anakin's mouth twists. "You did this to her and you want mercy?" The Tusken points urgently toward the tent, then gestures behind him. A female Tusken steps out carrying a pouch of herbs and a thick paste. Every instinct in Anakin screams trap. Then he looks at Shmi again and sees how close she is to the edge. He deactivates his lightsaber. The snap hiss feels like a door slamming shut inside him. He stays close, watching, ready to erupt if this turns wrong. The healer moves fast and practiced, pressing paste into Shmi's wounds. It doesn't undo anything. It slows the bleeding enough to keep her here. Morning crawls over the dunes. A speeder crests the horizon. Padme Amidala steps out, windblown and tight with dread, with Owen Lars and Beru close behind her, plus a couple farmers who look like they came because fear stopped being useful. The raiders don't attack. They watch from a distance like they're trying to decide what they just survived. Padme isn't carrying news like a messenger. R2 caught a scrambled Jedi relay on Anakin's comlink frequency, and she's holding the playback like it might bite. Obi-Wan sent a message, she says. Geonosis. He's been captured. Anakin looks toward the tent. Shmi lies wrapped in cloth, breathing shallow but steady. I'm not leaving her. Shmi forces herself upright, like stubbornness is the only muscle she still owns. No, she says, and the word carries weight. You must go. Anakin stares at her like he's being ordered to tear himself in half. The Tusken who surrendered steps forward and thumps a fist to his chest. I go, surety. He calls himself Tar Razor in clipped basic, and the offer is simple. He goes with the Lars family and stays under guard until Shmi is safely home, because his tribe won't risk breaking the agreement if one of their own is held. Owen hates it. Padme doesn't like it. Anakin accepts it because there's no clean option. Tar Razor goes with the Lars. Anakin goes to Geonosis. Geonosis hits like a furnace. He doesn't arrive to a rescue. He arrives to a trap, chains, the arena. Monsters dragged out like a spectacle. Then the sky fills with gunships, and clones drop into the sand like the Republic had an answer waiting behind a curtain. The battle becomes metal and dust and screaming comms, and inside it, Anakin loses his arm to Count Dooku. Learns what it feels like to be carved by a calm enemy. When it's over, the war has started and nothing feels clean. Anakin gets called a hero and hears it like static. The first moment the Council allows, he returns to Tatooine. Shmi is at the Lars homestead, bandaged, pale, stubbornly present in the shade, like she's refusing to leave the world on principle. Tar Razor is there too, silent and tense, watched by farmers with blasters who aren't sure whether they're guarding an enemy or a message. Eventually, he speaks. Something has been wrong in the desert, not just harsh. Wrong. Tribes fighting near sacred ground. Warriors acting like their heads are full of heat. A place the Tuskens call the Needles, where blood isn't supposed to be spilled, now stained anyway. Obi-Wan hears the report through the council. Mace Windu doesn't dismiss it, not with Dooku revealed and the dark side suddenly everywhere. The Jedi come to Tatooine. Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, Anakin, Tar Razor guides them across the dunes like he's walking into a story his people avoid telling. The Needles rise out of the sand like stone claws. From a distance, they're jagged hills. Up close, they feel like a wound in the world. Mace reacts first, eyes narrowing. Anakin feels it too, not a roar, a pressure. Anger becomes easier. Suspicion starts sounding intelligent. Doubt arrives with a voice that pretends it's helping. Obi-Wan breathes slow, anchoring himself. Whatever this is, it wants us turned on each other. Tar Razor's voice is low. Sanctuary, no conflict. Now, conflict. They climb. The pressure tightens with each step, like the air is trying to provoke a mistake. A boulder breaks loose above them and tumbles down fast enough to end them. Anakin throws up his hand and shatters it mid-fall. Fragments explode outward like knives. Obi-Wan and Mace redirect the larger pieces with calm, sweeping control. Shots crack from a ridge. A Tusken sniper fires wild, roaring like he wants them buried. Anakin launches upward in a blur, closes the distance before the raider can reload, takes the swing on his new arm, twists, and slams the sniper into rock. His fist rises. Anakin! Obi-Wan's voice hooks him. Mace arrives a breath later, posture rigid, eyes sharp with warning. Tar Razor barks furious words in his own language. The raider spits back like venom. The tension spikes and the pressure of the place feeds it. Mace steps between them. We're not here to punish. Tar Razor mutters, bitter. Jedi. Obi-Wan kneels beside the Raider and reaches through the Force, cooling panic into something speakable. The Tusken finally gives them something useful through gesture and fractured basic. A cave their tribes avoid because it burns the mind, and someone non-Tusken entered it. Obi-Wan pulls up a hollow of Count Dooku. The Raider shakes his head hard. Not him. They go to the cave. Instead of teeth, they find silence that feels chosen. A corpse lies long dead, half buried near the back. Nearby sits a small pyramid device with a red crystal glowing faintly, an emitter angled upward like it's been poisoning the air on purpose. Mace pulls the crystal free. The device dies. The pressure releases at once, like a hand letting go of a throat. Obi-Wan exhales. A beacon. They seal it and take it back. Tar Razor watches the bundle like it's a predator inside a cage. When Anakin returns to the homestead, Shmi sees the wrapped device and her eyes sharpen with fear. Red, she whispers. Anakin's stomach drops. You saw it. At night, she says. A glow, a shadow near the camp. Mace and Obi-Wan trade a look they don't hide. Shmi's fingers tighten around Anakin's hand. Don't let them use you, she whispers. And then her strength gives out. It's not dramatic. It's just a breath that doesn't return. Anakin sits rigid, waiting for the next inhale until reality refuses to provide it. Obi-Wan rests a careful hand on his shoulder. Mace turns away, jaw locked, because even he has no words that make this fair. They bury Shmi beneath the Tatooine sky. Anakin stands over the grave, feeling like the desert took something it had no right to touch. Tar Razor keeps his end of the bargain. When it's done, he returns to his people without triumph or apology, vanishing into the dunes. Back on Coruscant, the Jedi begin studying the device in private, tracing its craft and searching for a signature that shouldn't exist. Anakin doesn't have patience for careful work anymore. Chancellor Palpatine calls for him. The office feels gentle by design. Low light, quiet air. A voice meant to soothe you before it steers you. My boy, Palpatine says, and it almost sounds like safety. I'm so sorry. Anakin hates how close that sympathy comes to landing. Palpatine talks about duty, sacrifice, endurance. Then, without a gesture, his presence in the Force brushes Anakin's grief like a spark to oil. That night, the dreams start, sharp, vivid, cruel. Tuskens chanting, sand like teeth. A masked figure over Shmi, triumphant. Tar Razor's silhouette twisted into betrayal. Anakin wakes up choking on fury, tries the Jedi methods, and gets the same result. The dreams return, each night tightening a single message in his skull. You spared them, and paid for it. Obi-Wan notices the change, the snapping tone, the clenched hands, the flinch at nothing. In the archives, he feels dark side residue clinging to Anakin's presence. Oily, precise, applied. He brings it to Mace. Mace's voice goes cold. He's being pushed. Anakin bristles. I'm not a child. Mace doesn't soften. You're a blade. Someone is trying to hold the handle. That's when Palpatine wins a quiet victory. Anakin stops trusting the Order to keep his pain from being weaponized. The dreams turn into certainty. Tar Razor's tribe is preparing another ritual, and the next offering won't be a stranger in the dunes. It'll be the Lars family. Owen, Beru, Klieg, so Anakin leaves without asking. By the time Obi-Wan and Mace track him, the desert is already burning again. Anakin marches toward a Tusken village with murder in his posture. Warriors emerge, startled and defensive, raising rifles because a Jedi walking in like a storm doesn't look like negotiation. Where is the shadow? Anakin roars. Where is the one who put that red fire in your heads? A Tusken steps forward, struggling through basic. No shadow. Anakin doesn't hear him. A shot cracks past his shoulder. Something in him snaps, and he becomes blue light and sand spray, tearing through the village like grief finally found a direction. Then he sees Tar Razor. The Tusken appears at the edge of the chaos, roaring, rifle raised, not triumphant, not smug, desperate. He's trying to cut through panic and reach Anakin like he's stopping a stampede. Anakin's nightmare overlays reality like a mask. He swings. Tar Razor dodges low and fast, fighting to survive long enough to get through to him. Anakin kicks him hard. Tar Razor stumbles, nearly falls. Anakin raises his saber for the finishing blow. A starship screams overhead and lands hard enough to throw sand like rain. Obi-Wan and Mace hit the ground running. "Skywalker!" Mace roars. "The Lars are protected. There is no raid coming. Stop!" Obi-Wan steps closer, blade ready, eyes pleading. "Anakin, this isn't you. Something is inside your head." For a fraction of a second, Anakin hesitates. Then the pressure flares and he shoves with the Force, trying to hurl Obi-Wan away like an obstacle. Mace blocks it, planting himself like a wall. The duel happens because there's no other way to keep Anakin from finishing what the darkness started. Mace fights to disable. Obi-Wan fights to reach him. Anakin fights like a man trying to outrun a grave. Obi-Wan gets close enough to reach through the Force, trying to rip the intrusion out of Anakin's mind like splinters behind the eyes. Anakin convulses, resisting, not because he wants darkness, but because the darkness has its hands wrapped around his grief. Tar Razor steps in. He swings the blunt end of his gaffy stick into Anakin's stomach, hard enough to steal his breath. The haze falters. Mace pins Anakin in place long enough for Obi-Wan to finish the purge. The fire in Anakin's eyes dims. His lightsaber shuts off. He drops to his knees, gasping, blinking like he just woke up inside a disaster he didn't choose. He looks around at burning tents and terrified survivors, and horror hits him so fast it almost breaks him. He whispers, and nothing follows. Obi-Wan kneels beside him, hands shaking. Anakin, a new presence rolls over the village like a cold tide. Not rage, not fear. Something older, smarter, proud. A voice drifts across the sand, calm and amused. Such wasted potential. Anakin's head snaps up. A figure stands on a dune above them, robes moving in the wind, posture casual like he's watching a performance. Chancellor Palpatine. Obi-Wan rises slowly, disbelief turning to ice. Mace's hand tightens on his saber. Palpatine smiles, and the smile stops pretending. "You," Mace says, voice low. Palpatine inclines his head. "Yes." Anakin's breathing turns jagged as the pieces lock together without needing a speech. The device, the pressure, the dreams, the way the darkness always knew where to press. "You did it," Anakin says, voice terrifyingly steady. "You made it happen." Palpatine's eyes glitter. "I nudged the right creatures at the right time," he says, "and you became exactly what I expected." Mace ignites his saber. "Sith," Palpatine doesn't deny it. "Darth Sidious." The remaining Tuskens, sensing the source of the poison that burned their sacred ground, rise from hiding and charge him with a collective roar. Sidious doesn't even draw his blade. Lightning cracks from his hands and tears through them. Bodies hit the sand smoking, cries cut short. Tar Razor snarls and tries to stand. Sidious flicks his fingers and sends lightning toward Anakin, still on his knees, still recovering. Tar Razor throws himself into the path of it. The bolt engulfs him. He drops shaking, burning, refusing to beg. Anakin's eyes widen, and the fire that ignites this time isn't poison, it's purpose. Obi-Wan and Mace rush Sidious together, blades igniting, the air splitting with sound. Sidious draws his lightsaber, red blooming like an open wound, and the dune becomes a storm of steel and force. He's fast, too fast, driving them back with crushing pressure, lightning snapping between strikes. Mace absorbs the fury and turns it. Obi-Wan stays flawless, creating space, hunting for a single opening. Anakin stands, looks at Tar Razor's fallen form, then ignites his lightsaber and enters the fight like a comet. Sidious meets him expecting a shaken apprentice. Instead, he collides with rage that finally has the right address. Anakin's strikes aren't gentle, but they're aimed, each one a refusal to be owned. Sidious gives ground. Obi-Wan sees it. The difference between a pawn being pulled and a man choosing where his storm goes. Mace presses from one side. Obi-Wan pulls Sidious' guard wide from the other. Anakin swings low. The blade takes Sidious' arms in a flash. The Sith Lord drops to his knees, staring at the stumps like the galaxy betrayed him. His lightsaber falls into the sand. Anakin stands over him, breathing hard, blade raised. Obi-Wan's voice is quiet but urgent. Anakin. Mace doesn't speak, but his eyes are a warning. Don't become what you killed. Sidious looks up and smiles anyway. Do it, he whispers. Become it. Anakin's hands shake. Shmi's face flashes behind his eyes. Tar Razor's sacrifice burns into the moment like a brand. He understands the trap. Sidious wants to own this choice. Anakin leans closer, voice low. You don't get to name what I am. And he ends it. One clean strike. The desert goes quiet. Obi-Wan closes his eyes, relief and dread twisting together. Mace stands rigid, staring at the body like he's watching the Republic crack open. Anakin drops beside Tar Razor, reaches out, and finds nothing left to hold. I'm sorry, he whispers, and the apology doesn't pick a single target. When they return to Coruscant, the galaxy doesn't know how to breathe. The Jedi bring proof the Senate can't ignore. A Sith lightsaber, the recovered device, and a holo-recording pulled straight from Obi-Wan's active comlink, Sidious naming himself before the blades even move. With Padme testifying on record and two masters backing it, the Republic convulses. Loyalists scramble. Opportunists vanish. The war keeps moving because momentum doesn't ask who's steering it. A new chancellor is elected fast. The Jedi don't celebrate, because the crisis isn't only outside the temple. Anakin killed a Sith Lord, and he did it with an execution. The council calls him in. The temple feels colder, not because the air changed, but because everyone is looking at him like a question they're afraid to answer. Mace's voice is controlled. You acted outside Jedi law. Anakin's stare doesn't flinch. He arranged my mother's death. Yoda's ears dip. Fear leads to anger. Don't! Anakin cuts in, not loud, sharp enough to stop the room. Don't turn her into a proverb. Obi-Wan shifts, caught between defending him and fearing what this moment unlocked. Mace steps closer. If you decide the next threat should be removed the same way, who stops you? Anakin's eyes flash. Maybe someone should have stopped him. Silence fills the chamber. Not Sith rage, not Jedi serenity. Something else. A man with too much power and a new definition of justice. The council talks about judgment, meditation, containment. They don't say prison, but the shape of it stands in the room. Anakin hears it and feels something cold settle behind his ribs. If they cage him now, they'll never let him be a person again. And Padme becomes leverage. Obi-Wan finds him later, alone, staring out at Coruscant's traffic like he's trying to decide whether it's beautiful or just another kind of prison. You did what you thought you had to, Obi-Wan says. Anakin's laugh is hollow. That's the problem. I'm always doing what I have to for someone else. Obi-Wan's eyes soften. And now? Anakin turns. And for a second, Obi-Wan sees the boy again, the one who wanted to be good so badly it hurt. Now I choose, Anakin says. Padme meets him away from the temple's eyes. She looks exhausted, like the galaxy has been leaning on her too hard for too long. When she sees him, she steps into him like she refuses to let fear rewrite what's real. I heard, she whispers. Anakin's voice cracks. I killed him. Padme looks up at him. I know. He braces for judgment. She touches his face instead, gentle. I understand. The calm lasts a moment. Then the fear returns. They're going to try to control me, he says. They'll use you. Padme's hand tightens. Not if we don't let them. Obi-Wan appears at the edge of the light, because of course he does. He looks older than he should, like every war decision carved another year into him. You're leaving, Obi-Wan says. Anakin answers with a quiet nod. I can't stay. If I do, they'll turn me into a leash, Obi-Wan swallows. And what do you become out there? Anakin's eyes flick toward the stars beyond the city. Something that doesn't pretend love is weakness. Obi-Wan looks like he wants to argue, to pull him back into safety. But safety is what lets a Sith sit on a throne. He exhales, rough. Then go, before Mace decides you don't get a choice. Anakin's eyes widened slightly. "You're letting me—" "I'm not your jailer," Obi-Wan says, a small, sad smile. "I'm your friend. I'm begging you, don't disappear into the dark." Anakin gives him a look that feels like promise and warning at the same time. They leave Coruscant without ceremony. The Clone Wars don't end overnight. Dooku still has armies. Worlds still burn. The Republic still bleeds. But there is no Order 66 waiting in a shadowed drawer. The Jedi Order survives, shaken, forced to admit what they missed in plain sight. And somewhere beyond the Senate and Temple, Anakin Skywalker becomes a rumor, not Vader, not the model Jedi, a Force user who walked away from both chains. That's the frightening part. With Sidious gone, Anakin belongs to no one. So here's the question. If you learned someone engineered the worst day of your life just to own you, would you still stay in the light? Or would you decide the galaxy needs protection so badly that the cost stops mattering? That's our story. If you want more Star Wars what-ifs that take the characters seriously, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, does Anakin leaving the Order save him? Or is that the exact moment he becomes something even more dangerous than Vader ever was? May the Force be with you.